Good morning, everyone in the United States, and good afternoon to those connected from the region, Turkey, and other parts of the world. As Senior Director of Turkey Programs, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this important and timely discussion today on the international response to the earthquake in Turkey. 3 weeks have passed since the region's biggest earthquake of the last century hit Turkey with devastating consequences in 11 provinces, killing nearly 45,000 people and affecting around 20 million people in the southern Turkey as well as northwest Syria. Just 1 week ago, another quake struck close to the Turkey-Syria border. In response, Turkey declared the highest level of emergency, triggering unprecedented international response. Around 11,500 search and rescue teams rushed to help from 90 countries. A total of 102 countries provided some form of aid, including the World Bank, as well as the United States and many other countries. In addition to the international aid, strong solidarity was shown through high-level official visits, such as one by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, his first official visit to Turkey after 2 years in office, as well as visits by Qatari Emir and foreign ministers from Greece, Germany, Israel, and among many others. Disaster diplomacy was also in play with help from countries with whom Turkey has had complex relationships, such as Greece, Armenia, Sweden, Israel, and the UAE. The latest and most striking example of disaster diplomacy was yesterday's visit by the Egyptian foreign minister, the first official visit from Egypt to Turkey at the ministerial level in more than a decade. Donation campaigns, international NGOs, multilateral organizations in many countries were mobilized to respond to the quakes. This effort was supported by companies around the world as well to provide help to the victims by donating food, medicines, services, and cash. As relief for those affected continues and planning for recovery begins, we would like to discuss today about the ongoing efforts and on the way forward. What role can the international community play to support the victims of the disaster? How is the earthquake affecting Turkey's international relations and the Turkey's foreign policy, and vice versa? I look forward to hearing our distinguished speakers and perspectives on these topics very soon. But before kicking off the discussion with the first round of questions, if I may, I would like to invite you all for a moment of silence, honoring all earthquake victims who lost their lives and affected by the earthquake. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We can resume. Thank you. So today, we have distinguished guests from different parts of the world. Let me please allow me to introduce our panelists. Nimrod Arad is chairman and CEO of Arad Holdings from Israel. Nimrod played a significant role in earthquake assistance to Turkey. So thank you, Nimrod, for joining us today. We are hosting Ajay Chibber. He is also non-resident senior fellow with South Asia Center at the Atlantic Council, but I know Ajay for many years. Ajay used to be the Turkey director at the World Bank in the past, and he also played a key role in the past 1999 earthquake as he was serving the Turkey director. So we will talk about that a bit with Ajay, how the things were then and how different it is now. And Erica Olson is Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs at the State Department. Thank you, Erica, for joining. I'm hoping to talk with Erica, the U.S. assistance, and on the U.S.-Turkey relations a bit. And Ambassador Mithat Rende, he is former permanent representative of Turkey to the OECD. Thank you, Ambassador Rende, for joining us and being also the voice of Turkey today. And we are hosting Ambassador Rende today. Not only he is a very distinguished Turkish ambassador, but he also has suffered from a personal tragedy at the earthquake, losing over 25 family members at the earthquake. So thank you all for joining us. It is a pleasure to host you on behalf of Atlantic Council and my own center, Atlantic Council in Turkey. So thank you all. So I'm now kicking off with the first round of questions, if I may. Very quickly, and if I can, I would like to start with Ambassador Rende to talk about Turkey a bit and and what happened. Ambassador Rende, welcome again to our event, and especially taking this moment with us. I know it is very hard. And you are from Hatay province of Turkey, which has been one of the most severely impacted by the disaster. Almost all Hatay, which is close to Syria border, by the way, those who doesn't know, let me repeat, destroyed completely. And there are a lot of casualties, many people died. First, let me share on behalf of the Council and all our viewers today our sincere condolences. Our thoughts are with you and your family, of course, with Turkey and also those who lost their lives in Syria. Please, can you share your insights on the situation in Hatay currently, and as well as the whole earthquake region? So let's start with that question, and then we can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be among such distinguished speakers today. And thank you very much for your thoughts and good wishes. Yes, I was born and raised in Hatay, Antakya. It's the antique name is Antioch. And it's very close to the Syrian border, of course. Hatay is the province and Antakya is the center, the township, the historical center of Hatay province. Hatay was hit hard indeed, with heartbreaking deaths and tens of thousands of deaths we had, including members of my family. Let me start by expressing my most sincere thanks, as I am the only member of the panel representing the Turkish side. My most sincere thanks and gratitude to our allies, starting from the United States and others who have stood in solidarity with us and with the Turkish people, and also who provided support from the very beginning, extended their support. I'm sure that the Turkish people will never forget the support extended by our friends and allies, and by many other countries from all over the world. I also would like to really thank the search and rescue teams who arrived from all over the world and from neighboring countries, including from Israel and Greece and Armenia, and from, of course, the United States also sent a search and rescue team. And they saved many lives, and they were very, very well received and welcomed by the Turkish people. Some of them are still in the earthquake area. So unfortunately, it hits a wide geography, the earthquake, with over 105,000 of buildings were collapsed, and it will take time. It will take years to reestablish, to rebuild the region, including Syria and Aleppo. Unfortunately, it hit also Syria, and I think they have over 6,000 deaths also in Syria. I think that you rightly said that it had some repercussions on the Turkish foreign policy. As I said, the search and rescue teams and the support provided from the very beginning was very well received by the Turkish people. We had serious problems in coordinating the support and rescue efforts. There was a serious lack of coordination, unfortunately. Certain search and rescue teams arrived in Adana because the airport of Hatay was also destroyed, unfortunately. So they arrived in Adana, and then they had to wait for some of them waited for hours and maybe for over a day to be able to move to the earthquake-stricken regions. So we learned lessons, but of course it was a bit late. This state of preparedness was not excellent. Many machinery was in short supply. The rescue teams arrived with quite sensitive and high-tech equipment, and at a point probably they were not able to use them. Anyway, today we have a huge problem. It's a disaster in the real sense of the word. Many members of my family, they are already out of the region with their children. Even they are not willing to move to their houses which were not damaged, because their children psychologically they are under pressure, I understand, with a huge trauma, and they want to live in tents if it's provided. We still have a lot of problems in providing tents and equipment, and in providing mobile toilets in the region, in providing containers and so on. So we will need the support of the international community in the days to come, in the period ahead. The problem will start maybe now, after people will be burying their loved ones and try to survive. We will need the support. I hope the support will continue to flow from the international community. With respect to the foreign policy aspect of it, Daphne, I think it will positively affect the political environment in the region. Definitely, the rescue team from Greece, when they saved one of the young girls, and after she was saved and moved to the ambulance, the team started crying, and that was a kind of let's say a real drama, and the Turkish people definitely thank them wholeheartedly, and many people cried with them, definitely. And the arrival of Greek foreign minister of Greece, Mr. Dandias, in the region, that was also very well received. The arrival of the Armenian foreign minister, and the Armenian support extended, and for the first time sent from the closed border to Turkey directly. All these are really worth remembering when we talk about the possible effects of the earthquake to international relations and Turkey's foreign policy. You rightly said that the arrival of the Egyptian foreign minister after almost a decade in Turkey, and to extend his solidarity with the Turkish people, was also quite an important development. So I think it will definitely positively affect the political atmosphere in the region, and I hope that it will help us consolidating normalization processes and working together with our neighbors in the period ahead. I think I should stop here now and see if you would like to ask more questions, or if I missed any important point, please let me know.
Thank you, Ambassador Rende. Thank you very much for this early remarks. We also started to receive a lot of questions for the audience who are listening, and we will have time for Q&A at the end of all our speakers after they complete their early remarks. So from Ambassador Rende, I would like to move to Nimrod Arat, if I may. As I already told, Nimrod is from Israel. So Nimrod, welcome again. You're an Israeli businessman, both based in Turkey and Israel, and you played a very active role mobilizing Israeli, private sector assistance to the region as well. Can you tell us about, what was your motivation, just so how do you think, this, and maybe you can brief us, how much assistance was made from Israel through your channel, and also, what were the obstacles, if there were any, faced by the aid activities as in the region, after the earthquake? So thank you.
So definitely, thank you, and thank you everybody. It means that there are no borders between Israel and Turkey. My own house is 450 kilometers from Samanda, from Hatay, and I live in Tel Aviv. We felt it. We woke up in the middle of the night and we felt it. The immediate response from the Israeli government has happened. Israel has been doing that since 1982, more than 30 international operations. In this operation, immediately more than 15 airplanes, and with the good pilots of IDF, they managed to land in Hatay. That the airport was totally harmed, and immediately from the airplane, they know how to go to the rescue missions that they had. In regards to the civilians and to the private sector, there was immediate response from the municipalities in Tel Aviv, in Ramat Gan, in other cities, but definitely we needed to do something. And in that aspect, the collaboration of the NGOs was very much felt. In Turkey, there were more than 13, 14, even 15 private NGOs from Israel on the ground. Our activity was mostly how to create, first of all, the logistic chain. That is very important to make sure that everything will arrive. In that manner, we had to follow, first of all, the regulations from AFAD, because everything has to be coordinated. And we went and we have received all the instructions, what is possible to be purchased, what is possible to be shipped. The coordination with the Turkish embassy to give us authorization to ship. So Turkish Airlines took a very, very important part of it. All the contributions were shipped with Turkish Airlines all the way, first of all, to Istanbul and then to Adana. And it was given us the right even to release it in the airport and to do the distribution ourselves. So in that manner, we have collaborated with more than 5 different NGOs that are very, very experienced in international activities of such crisis, mega crisis that happen. Yes, there were some difficulties. There were some difficulties to find a truck, so we needed to use our own contacts in the private sector. There were difficulties when you do distribution because you want things to be in a good way, in a dignified way, to keep the respect of the people and not just to throw on them from the truck. You want to create a line, respectful way to give them. In that manner, we got some support from local businessmen. The contribution received from a lot of organizations in Israel, a lot of companies that wanted to donate, and they are very much familiar with Israeli NGOs. they trust them, so they know that when they put the money, they give the money, or they send the items that they want to contribute, it will reach the final destination. So in that manner, we have shipped more than 200 tons. They were distributed in the first week, mostly in Kahramanmaraş. In the second week, mostly in Hatay and Samanda. And it still continues. We follow the requests. The requests were changing, but now mostly, like mentioned before, the tents are very much needed, and the sleeping bags and generators, and definitely toilets and showers. There are people that did not take a shower for more than 15, 16, 17 days to now. So we are talking about a mega magnitude crisis disaster that it was very, very difficult to be prepared to. Yes, people can criticize, but this kind of mega crisis is very, very difficult to be handled. And I want really to say that we have been received in an amazing way, open heart. And I know, of course, the Turkish people and the Turkish mentality, and we are very similar. We are from the same Mediterranean mentality. And we want really to share our condolences. And we will be always the first country and the people to support Turkey in such a case. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimrod. Just so Israel has always been a friend, just to Turkish people, and in the region plays, two close friends and allies, that's for sure. And so as to the audience, as you may have noticed, I want to really go through the earthquake response, and in the second round of questions, very quickly, I want to touch base on the, just how on the Turkish international, foreign policy, and how this will have an impact on the relations. And from here, if I may, I would like to move to Deputy Assistant Secretary Erika Olsen. Erika, welcome, and thank you for joining today as the voice of the U.S. government, and as a good friend and ally of Turkish people. U.S. was the first to respond in many ways. Can you talk about, just this process and about assistance that U.S. has provided to the region? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Daphne. And thank you to you and the Atlantic Council for putting this together today. As many of you know, I've spent considerable time in Turkey, and particularly in the area impacted by the earthquake. So I want to offer our deepest condolences, and especially to you, Ambassador Rende, deepest condolences on the loss of your family members. To me, this part of Turkey, Antakya, Diyarbakır, Mardin, Kilis, Reyhanli, Kahramanmaraş, Adıyaman is really the heart of Turkey, and it's just absolutely tragic to see the situation. As Daphne mentioned, from the very moment, in fact, the moment that the quake struck, I was actually texting with the Turkish ambassador here in Washington on something else. So from the very moment the earthquake happened, we were coordinating on what we could do, how we could quickly get on the ground, help with the search and rescue. Secretary Blinken spoke with Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu multiple times. President Biden called President Erdogan immediately to offer condolences and to ask how we could help. I had the honor of going to Turkey about a week ago with Secretary Blinken, and we had the opportunity to fly into Incirlik and to fly over the earthquake zone in Antakya and Hatay. It was absolutely devastating to see the impact on those communities, also the people in tents. And as that is happening, as Daphne mentioned, since the initial earthquake, there's been more than 40 aftershocks, many of whom are above 5 on the Richter scale. So I think that speaks to the psychological piece as well that Ambassador Rende talked about. So from the United States, we immediately offered search and rescue teams and quickly had them at the airport and on the ground in Turkey. More than 200 people and canines as well were on the ground in Adıyaman. They came from our most skilled search and rescue teams in Los Angeles County and Fairfax County. They were on the ground working hand in hand with other teams, including, as you noted, the Armenian search and rescue team, which was also in Adıyaman. I had an opportunity to meet with those teams on their way out of Turkey when I was there, and their stories were heart-wrenching. But as Ambassador Rende noted, the number of people that were saved because of these teams and the work they were doing was really notable. Secretary Blinken, while we were on the ground, announced an additional $100 million in U.S. government assistance, put together with the $85 million that we offered immediately following the earthquake. It brings U.S. government assistance to Turkey and Syria to $185 million. The U.S. private sector has been engaged from the very beginning. They have raised over $100 million. And that figure, I think, is much larger when you actually go down to the community levels. We also saw the American people across the country coming together to support those impacted by the earthquakes in Turkey. I think many of you saw the images from the Turkish embassy here. I had the opportunity to be there watching the trucks continually pour in with assistance, with tents, with blankets, with winter clothing to go to support the communities in the earthquake zone. Our NGOs have also played a fundamental role from the very beginning. They have brought mobile hospitals to the ground in multiple locations, mobile kitchens where they have fed thousands and thousands of people. And our support to the World Food Program has also helped bring food to about 1.7 million people in the area impacted by the quake. As Secretary Blinken noted when we were in Turkey, this is only the beginning of the support to our friends and allies and the people of Turkey, because we recognize this will be a very long process. We are incredibly supportive of the call at the UN for $1 billion in assistance to help, as well as the call for assistance in Syria. And we are working with allies and partners across the world to help Turkey meet that need. Also, when I was in southern Turkey, one of the things that was really remarkable, and I think some of you might have seen these pictures from the visit that captured it, was Turkish and US military officers and personnel standing next to each other, unloading the hundreds and hundreds of jetliners that were coming in to the base at Incirlik, unloading them, organizing them, reloading up the trucks that were continually rolling into Incirlik. We also were using US helicopters. More than 15 US helicopters were also being loaded up with these humanitarian supplies and taking them out to the communities that were impacted, that were hard to reach in places such as Adıyaman and Hatay. And those efforts continue to this day. I also am happy to note that a US surgical and trauma hospital has been delivered in Hatay. US military personnel are currently building that hospital to be able to provide additional support, particularly surgical and intensive care support to the communities most impacted by the earthquake. And that hospital will be turned over to the Turkish Ministry of Health to run for the long term. As we know, these kind of tragedies surprise us when they come. But the thing I think that shouldn't surprise any of us is that regardless of politics, friends are there for each other in their darkest hours. We've seen search and rescue teams from Turkey play important roles in similar tragedies around the world. And the United States was happy to be one of the first and pledges to be one of the last in terms of continuing to support the people of Turkey during this hour of deep tragedy. So thank you for having me here today. I'm happy to talk more about the foreign policy piece on the next round. But again, deepest condolences and our pledge to be there with the people of Turkey every day. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Das Olsen. And from here, I'd like to move to Ajay Chiber. Ajay, again, thank you for joining us. And it is very, I think important to have you here today because you were in Turkey yourself and managing the World Bank office and as a Turkey director. And you, at the time of the 1999 earthquake, which took place, by the way, for those who doesn't know, in the Marmara region of Turkey, totally different part of Turkey. And so it was another huge disaster, which we all hope that lessons were taken, but unfortunately it was not that much so. So Ajay, can you please tell us at that point, just so how was the response of the World Bank and IFIs then in 1999 earthquake, and what is happening now through the World Bank channel to the region as a comparison, and then we will continue from there. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Daphne, and thank you for inviting me to this very distinguished panel. And my second home, I consider Turkey my second home. I've started working in Turkey at the time when President Özal was there, and then I lived in Turkey for about 6 years. And then I've been to Turkey many times since then and have lots of friends. So when something good happens in Turkey, I celebrate a lot. But when something terrible happens, I feel it in my heart. And so this one is such a big tragedy that I really feel it. And especially to Ambassador Rende for his family, I want to express my deepest condolences. So yeah, this is a repeat of a much bigger scale than we saw even in Izmit. I was there when the Izmit earthquake took place. About 18,000 people died then. It was a huge tragedy at that time. There was a naval base where submarines were flung out and were sitting 300-400 feet on top of a hill. So I can imagine, and I've been in this region, traveled in the region which has now been affected many times. And so I really feel for what's happened. At that time, the World Bank's role was very important. And I hope it will also be important this time, and I'm sure it will be. We organized, I raised about $1.3 billion at that time from the World Bank, but then I went to the Islamic Bank and to the European Investment Bank, to the Japanese and many other countries, and raised close to $4 billion. We organized the program of recovery in 4 phases. We are not very involved in this first phase of rescue and relief. That's more for NGOs and international other, UN organizations. But one of the things we observed in the Izmit quake was pawn shops had come up and people needed cash. Families were being split apart because men were looking for work and then the family. So we organized a very rapid cash assistance program. And I hope that will be done here because in addition to toilets and tents and medical, families will need cash. The second thing we did was we said there must be a proper damage assessment because it's very hard to organize international assistance unless there's a credible damage assessment. So that was done very quickly. Then the housing and, there are 2 reasons why buildings collapse. One, they're not built on proper soil. And secondly is the quality of the construction. So getting proper land for the reconstruction is very important. And then having the building code there. And then we also instituted an insurance program, which I can talk more about. One of and that was one of the fastest reconstruction recoveries that anybody had seen anywhere in the world at that time. I mean, Turkey finished most of the reconstruction and recovery then in about 2.5 to 3 years, much faster than the Japanese Kobe earthquake, which took about over 4 years, and much faster than any other earthquake reconstruction program. But even then, it took about 2.5 years because you have to follow proper procedures, you have to get the land right, etc. So doing anything in a rush will be damaging in the long run. I see that the World Bank has already completed a damage assessment report. The extent of the damage is very high here. According to this report, now just the capital stock, that is buildings and infrastructure, their estimate is about $34 billion, which is about 4% of Turkey's current GDP. There about 105,000 buildings have been very badly damaged. 1.25 million people are rendered homeless. 15 hospitals have been damaged. Gas pipelines have been affected. So Hatay, Gaziantep, Kahramanmaraş, and Adiyaman have no gas now at this point. Lots of animals, cattle, sheep, thousands and thousands of them have been killed. So in addition to the construction, the capital cost loss, the economic loss is going to be huge as well. So the $34 billion in capital stock loss will probably double in size when you count the economic loss. So the extent of reconstruction that will be required will be much bigger than what we had. Unfortunately, the last time we helped write a proper building code, but this building code was not fully followed for a variety of reasons. Political amnesties were given. The insurance program still survives. It's called the Turkish Catastrophic Insurance Pool. So that has a reinsurance value of about $3 trillion. The penetration rate for that insurance in this region, which has now been affected, according to my friends who know about this, my colleagues tell me it's about 55, little over 50%. Once again, the value of the insurance was not upgraded with inflation properly. So the average insurance policy is only about $7,000. But nevertheless, once those claims come in, Turkey will be able to get a considerable sum of money from these reinsurance policies that have been affected under this catastrophic insurance pool. So this is on a scale which is much larger than what we had to deal with. One very key factor then was it was a coalition government led by Mr. Ecevit. But what he did was he put a state minister in the prime minister's office in charge for all the coordination of this reconstruction activity. And that was a big help in speeding up the whole process. The coordination between the central government and the governorates and the municipalities was aided immensely by having a state minister in the prime minister's office playing that very important role. Let me stop here, Daphne, and I can answer more questions later.
Ajay, thank you very much. Now I'd like to quickly, go through about the international relations, also to capture some of the questions already in the Q&A box, and then I will also save some time for the Q&A that we are not capturing, during the remarks. So I'd like to turn again to Mithat Rende. Mithat, very quickly, just as we have already, spoke and you have mentioned, we have seen a lot of key visits to Turkey. and including, as I already also said, some of the countries that Turkey had issues with, just in the recent years, including our good NATO ally, United States. And I want to speak a bit more with Erica about that, and I want to speak also, with our friend Nimrod, on the Turkey-Israel relations now. But we also received visit trips and help from Armenia, from Sweden, and many other countries. So what is your expectations, just all these close, and now we also talk about, by the way, Egypt, about the visit that took place just literally yesterday. How all these trips and warm relations that came out of this huge disaster in the region and will have a reflection on Turkey's foreign policy in the near future. And I also need to remind you that Turkey will be also going on elections this year. So we don't know at this stage what will be the election results. But nevertheless, there are issues, like, Turkey are really, and Turkey has already been, in rapprochement stages with many countries, including UAE and Armenia. How everything, all this that we have gone through, just so in the region, will have a reflection on Turkey's bilateral relations, and also as one of the, just as one of the, country with the biggest military in the southern flank of NATO. So, Mithat, please, thank you. You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you once again, Excellency Erica Olsen, for your very kind words and thoughts. Thank you, Nimrod Arad. Thank you, Ajay Shibber, for your good wishes and for all what you have done to ease the suffering of the Turkish people and the people in the region. You're right, Daphne. It will have serious implications. This disaster on Turkey's foreign policy. You might recall that Turkey experienced a major policy shift before the earthquake, of course. And with Turkey's efforts to normalize relations and to consolidate its the normalization process with Israel, with the United Arab Emirates, with Saudi Arabia, and with Egypt, and also I think there were also they tried to reach out to Armenia, and they made certain calls in this direction. With respect to Greece, this earthquake will definitely have positive impacts on our relations. I hope that there will be. You rightly said that the elections, of course, will take place. It's likely to take place. The general elections on the 14th of May. I understand. So we should expect also maybe certain approaches before the elections towards our neighbors, and also as regards our relations with the United States. Of course, we will continue. The Turkish side, of course, will continue with its dialogue with the United States in the context of also the membership of Sweden and Finland. And I hope that it will bear fruit. But definitely, we should expect some positive environment, and which is supported by the Turkish people. The Turkish people will support the normalization efforts to normalize relations with the with neighboring countries in the Eastern Mediterranean region. And let's see, but one more, and I think it's quite important. I might not have the chance to talk again, to speak again. Schools were destroyed in the region, thousands of schools, and I had the opportunity to speak yesterday with the mayor of Hatay, the greater municipality of Hatay, and with the mayor of Samandağ and Defne and other townships. All of them, they are asking for support for the education system. It collapsed totally. So we need to build schools, not only containers and tents, but what we need is to build schools. The education is in danger now, and the post-disaster rehabilitation is quite important. It's crucial, in fact. We need the support of our friends for the post-disaster rehabilitation, and especially the care that we need to provide to our children who suffered most. And then we have hundreds of thousands of people who are now out of the region, and they are waiting to return. And most of them, they own SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, and their ateliers are destroyed, so they have to build them also. They will have to earn their money, and they need the support of the government and the international community. Thank you, Ajay Bey. Great to see you, and we look forward to see you in Turkey again in the period ahead.
Mithat, thank you very much for that. Just so very quickly, just so you have really touched base on some of the aspects that is not really covered very well, but I'm sure, just so Turkey should be, in contact with the foreign missions at site, and, just so sharing what is needed, just, and hope the assistance also continues as you requested. But very quickly, I'd like to ask, it is also one of the Q&A, and which I was planning to ask. One of the very rapid outcome of this earthquake assistance and earthquake diplomacy is, if I may say, was that Turkey decided to resume to talk with Sweden and Finland on their NATO expansion. So what do you expect there? How this rapprochement and new relationship may have an impact on Turkey's position? What is your expectation there?
Well, I think definitely there's a trust gap here between Turkey and Sweden, I think, and for obvious reasons. And I'd like to recall the recent events there. So we have to build up. We need a dialogue. We need to continue with a dialogue, and in order to diffuse this trust, to mend fences, and to build trust and confidence. We will need maybe time, but of course, this is a good question to be asked to either Minister Çavuşoğlu or the Turkish president. And of course, I wish both sides the best of luck in trying to mend fences and build bridges. And I hope that the United States and other allies will do their part to contribute to the process. The Turkish people, and especially and also the Turkish government, they are quite sensitive, and probably they will have to talk, and they are expecting, of course, Sweden to take the necessary steps. I hope Sweden has already provided support to Turkey and acted on time. But in the past, they were blamed of not acting on time and not doing taking the necessary steps. So, but definitely it's an important issue. And I hope that the United States, Britain, and other allies will work towards reaching a solution or reaching a consensus in the period ahead. And then of course, personally, I would be more than happy to see Sweden and Finland as full members of NATO in order to strengthen the alliance. I was in my late 20s when I had the opportunity to work in NATO as a third secretary at the NATO headquarters when we had 16 members only. So, of course, now, given the geopolitical environment and the situation in Ukraine, we need to be resilient and strong and ready to face the challenges of today.
Thank you, Ambassador Rende. From you, I'd like to move very quickly to Nimrod, and U.S. and Israel, Turkey relations. Nimrod, just as a businessman and friend of Turkey, and a good relations already resumed between Israel and Turkey recently, despite the challenges in the past. How you assess as we move forward, just all this, relationship, do you expect even more accelerated movement there, between Turkey and Israel? And maybe we can touch base very quickly before we move on to the Q&A. Thank you.
Yeah, so definitely we see that the relationship got in a formal way the authorization from the government, from the Turkish government, from the Israeli government. And then we can start seeing the big players, the big companies from Turkey show much more interest in entering the Israeli market. Vice versa, the Israeli companies are showing a very open mind and the interest to enter the Turkish market. The trade is about $10 billion annually, so it's been growing in 30% in the past 3 years, each year about 30%, so it's growing. And we are expecting more than 1 million tourists this year to come from Israel to Turkey. So definitely the relationship and from the business aspect is going to be much more prosperous, and we have a lot of opportunity. We need to remember that in Israel, we are importing mostly, so $7.5 billion of this is import from Turkey. So Turkey is very important for our life in Israel. We are dependent on the manufacturing in Turkey for almost every aspect of our living in Israel. And we need to think how we can use this opportunity to become stronger. We need to use this situation as a use case, because the next earthquake can happen in Tel Aviv, it can happen in Istanbul. We need to be able to collaborate together. We need to find the right way, how to do the assessments, how to find the dangerous buildings, and how to collaborate together in order to open regional crisis centers. Definitely, I agree very much with Mitat Abi, this children issue. We need to attend them. We need to help them. We need to bring people with trauma management experience, social workers, and we need to keep them active. Otherwise, we are going to lose a generation. We are talking about huge numbers. So there are a lot of things to do, and Israel is 100% willing and would want to collaborate with the authorities in Turkey, both sides. Also, definitely the private sectors. There are amazing technologies to be implemented. Thank you again.
Thank you, Nimrod. And Das Olsen, Erika, if I may, as you also said, you were accompanying Secretary Blinken, just as he was visiting Turkey. And thank you for sharing your own experiences there. It is, I think, very important that you were there with him. As you said, you know Turkey and Turkish people well. So what is your expectation as we move forward on the current challenges that's still on the table between Turkey and United States, and what are the takes that we should be focusing on from this important visit that Secretary did to Turkey? Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yes, I want to say that in the discussions, both that Secretary Blinken had with Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu, with President Erdogan, I think they were very good and constructive discussions, both about how we can work together to support Turkey at this difficult time, but also about the bilateral relationship. And as many of you know, since President Biden and President Erdogan met on the edges of the G20, that we have had in place a strategic mechanism which enables us to get together and talk about issues of joint concern across the world. We have met in that format at least 5 times at this point, including in January of this year when Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu and a team from Turkey traveled to Washington for those discussions. As you can imagine, those discussions really range across global issues of concern, to include the situation in Ukraine and Russia, Libya, Africa, really quite broad. And those discussions continue, and I think are quite productive. Now, that doesn't mean we agree all the time. There are still plenty of points that we disagree on, but I think it's very important that we are sitting and having conversations and talking through the different perspectives that lead to the different policies, and that process will continue. A couple of other things I wanted to note, and I saw a few things come in the questions, so if I could. One on the question of Sweden and Finland, the United States remains dedicated to Sweden and Finland becoming members of the alliance. We think it makes the alliance stronger and it makes all of us stronger, which given the geopolitical and global security shifts that we have experienced since Putin invaded Ukraine a year ago, last February, have shown that being closely coordinated and unified across the alliance has been absolutely essential to all of us. And so we look forward to the day that we can welcome Finland and Sweden into the alliance. We were happy to see yesterday announcements of another meeting of the trilateral group that should happen in early March. We believe that Sweden has made significant steps in implementing the agreement that the 3 countries reached at the last NATO summit in Madrid, and will continue to work with Turkey as well as with Finland and Sweden to help in the process of addressing those concerns and moving towards membership. Someone asked a question about Syria, and it's true we haven't talked much in this session about Syria because we were focused on Turkey. But I do want to note that U.S. assistance to Syria, to those impacted by the earthquake, has been continuous. I had the chance while in southern Turkey to meet with Secretary Blinken and the White Helmets, who have been our fundamental partners in earthquake response and search and rescue. We have continued to support them. We have also worked within the context of the UN to increase the number of crossing points and to increase the amount of assistance that is actually going in to Syria to help that community. And then one other question was about the hospital. The hospital should be up and running this week, and taking patients very soon. I'll stop there. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you, Erica. Very quickly, Aja, just so you really, went through a very important point in your early remarks, just so from cash assistance to, damage assistance, and from there, the speeding up the recovery, how is important, but why you are also underlining that doing things in rush will be huge mistakes, because for the in the long run, and taking into account the future earthquakes, and then you also talk about, by the way, I'm echoing myself, as I speak, so I'm not sure how this is.
It's fine. It's coming
Okay.
across.
Okay. Wonderful. So, so very quick, and you also talk about this important, insurance scheme that the World Bank has built. Can you expand that part a bit more before, just we turn to Q&A? This is so important, just so, do you have any assessment how this money was canalized to Turkey, after 1999? And you also touch base, and which is very important, that the inflation adjustment was not really made to the scheme, just unfortunate throughout the years. So the money there, in a way, this means that really, just shrank a bit. So can you tell us a bit, and whether there is any chance that this can be revitalized again, this scheme for Turkey?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the key here is to build back better. And by the way, yesterday I got a call from an Al Jazeera reporter who not only went to the region that is now affected, but she also visited Izmit to check how the people were doing who had survived the 99 earthquake. And they all said to her, "We sleep well at night because we know we live in earthquake-proof buildings." The buildings that were built at that time with our assistance were built to stand 8 on the Richter scale. So they said, "We sleep well because we know we are in safe buildings." And as Ambassador said, especially the children with all these aftershocks, they don't want to ever go into a building which they feel is unsafe. And when you see in pictures of one building completely fine and the next one right next to it completely collapsed, you know that it is the quality of the construction that makes a huge difference. So building back better is a key to economic revival also of this region. So trying to speed it up too much may actually create more problems down the line. On the insurance, so yes, the Turkish catastrophic insurance pool, while it has been weakened, it's still alive. The penetration rate, even in this region, is 55%. That means 55% of the people there actually have some form of insurance. Even if the amount is small, they have it. So now we have to the World Bank initially put in $100 million of a guarantee, which led to the creation of the pool. But afterwards, of course, the World Bank withdrew and, it carried on its own. It can be revitalized in a major way again, and it will require some injection of public money because that helps keep the cost of insurance to people down. There should be a law which makes it compulsory. And by the way, a good insurance program also helps with enforcement of the building code, because no insurer will insure a building which does not meet the proper building code. And on the schools and hospitals, I would say at a minimum, all public buildings must be earthquake proof. Because imagine if all those schools had not collapsed now, not only would education continue, but also these can become potentially also shelter points for people. Buildings, public buildings can be where people can be given shelter also. So in building back, certainly the public buildings must be ensured that they follow these policies. And the insurance helps to enforce the building code even better, because then the contractor has to follow at least the minimum standards of the building code.
Thank you, Ajay. Just so I'm extending, just till 15, and I will return to very quickly to Q&A. Mithat, I saw you raised hands. Yeah, very quickly.
Point, very
okay,
short.
thank you.
Quick,
yeah, thank you.
Just in addition to what Ajay Bey has already said, I think it's quite important. Ajay Bey underlined the importance of having strong soil and many buildings collapsed because they were built on soft or not safe soils, and some of them were destroyed because they have not honored the construction codes. They were not implemented. They were ignored. The construction codes, especially designed after the Izmit, the 1999 earthquake, and hence the disaster of such magnitude. Now I sense that there are many people, and especially private companies, rushing to the region and trying to build thousands of houses without the necessary preparedness, without the necessary work to see what sort of infrastructure we will need in the region, and the quality of the soil. And so it would be another tragedy to build without preparing. It's very important. I had a few words with one of the one of the ambassadors residing in Ankara, and he said that his government is trying to help to find the right places to build, let's say, not container, but to build the buildings to reestablish, especially Antakya, which is a historic city starting from the Hittites and the Roman Empire, and we would like to maintain the nature, the soul, and the historical character of the town of Antakya. So we should not rush to build overnight tens of thousands of buildings. It should be worked carefully in cooperation with the government. I hope with the international organizations, institutions, and the Turkish private sector. One last point for Daphne, and that is about the people who are out of the earthquake area, and they would like to return, and they are not happy to be sent to container cities or container to container how do you call it, not cities, but the containers, let's say 1,000 containers together. They don't want to live there. They want to live nearby their animals. They want to live nearby their devastated or destroyed buildings, and they would like to continue living in their villages or townships. So I think we should be careful there also. And finally, health services. It's missing now. It's very important. What we need is a proper health service in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mithat. Thank you. From there, I'd like to move on very quickly to one question about Syria, that came from several, participants today, which is rightly because this is an earthquake also hit Syrian people, and there are also, significant amount of Syrian refugees under temporary protection also were living in the region. In Turkey. Mithat, my question is to you, and maybe partially to Erika as well, even though she touched base a bit about assistance to that region, just so how and Hatay is also close to Syria. How do you think that this will have an impact on Turkey's policy, in Syria? And unfortunately, we don't have a Turkish representative here today among us to reply maybe officially, but maybe as an experienced ambassador you can reply, just the Syria angle, the relationship between Turkey and Syria and Assad regime, and also the maybe the just expected activities of Turkish military in the region and the Syrian refugees. Very quick, as a quick wrap up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Daphne. First of all, probably our friends, they are aware that the Turkish president, before the earthquake, he expressed interest in meeting the Syrian president, and then the Russian side offered a kind of trilateral meeting, and then I think the Iranians expressed interest in joining. So there was a sort of a kind of effort to bring together the presidents. But in the absence of trust, I personally thought that it was quite premature to have the presidents meet. Well, I wouldn't mind having or organizing a kind of dialogue between the said countries, the trilateral or quadrilateral dialogue. With respect to the assistance, yes, unfortunately, Aleppo was destroyed. It was already destroyed as a result of the war in Syria, but I understand that the rest was also destroyed. Idlib is the region which is closest to Hatay, where I understand there's about like 3 million people living under dire situations. But Turkey maintained its support to the province of Idlib, and I think the only way to provide food and other services was through Turkey to Idlib. My concern is that with this devastation in northern Syria, that the people in Idlib might try to cross the border, and illegally, of course. Illegal crossing would add to injury, and the people of Hatay and other Gaziantep and probably Urfa, I understand that they are concerned about a possible movement, irregular and illegal movement of people through the borders, not through of course, border points, but through other means. That would be a huge challenge for Turkey and the people of the region. So we should not expect, at least we should expect the Turkish side to provide security of the borders, and of course to extend assistance. I hope that the United Nations will provide enough support and the international community to Syria, because they are devastated. They were already living under very heavy conditions. So definitely it would have been better to have maybe a diplomat or an active diplomat or an authority from the Turkey side to speak about the state of affairs. But as a bureaucrat from the region who also served in Damascus a long time ago, I hope that the Syrians will stay in Syria, and that the international community will rise to the challenge and offer their most possible support to keep the people there, and to provide the basic services to the people in Syria at such a dark time.
Thank you, Ambassador Rende. Das Olson, do you have anything to add on the Syria angle, just on the top of what you have already said?
Sure. I just wanted to add one thing, which is in the days immediately following the earthquake, there was a lot of disinformation put out about U.S. sanctions in Syria and how that was negatively impacting humanitarian response. And I just want to be absolutely clear that there are no sanctions on humanitarian assistance whatsoever. And that has that humanitarian assistance, as I noted earlier, and as Ambassador Rende talked about through the UN, has been very important in the early days. Excuse me. I do share the concern that there could be movements of people that have been impacted by these earthquakes, and I think it's why it's so important for all of us now, and that Turkey plays an absolutely essential role in this, in ensuring those people in northern Syria who are very isolated can have access to what they need to rebuild their lives. Because I think the same can be said in Syria as in the earthquake region of Turkey, as so well put by Ambassador Rende, is that they don't want to leave. So what can we do to help them to be able to rebuild what they need to be able to stay? And Turkey will be an absolutely crucial part of that discussion as we go forward.
Thank you very much, Erika. One of our audience actually rightly mentioned that, we never touched base on Euro-Atlantic Disaster Response Center. I mean, he is right, but I mean, there are so many, including many EU allies of Turkey, rushed to help Turkey, just so in this audience, we don't have a representative from the EU, but we will have another session in the future days, focusing on EU-Turkey as an aftermath of the earthquake, and we will be touching more base on that relationship, just as a footnote. And yes, it was a fact that it was mostly Turkey's true friends and allies who rushed to help in this earthquake. And so moving very quickly with the questions, just so Das Olson, I also have a question very quickly, just so this is, I don't know if you can, but what were the Turkish requests from the Secretary Blinken during his visit? Even though you touched base of it, I mean, were there any lists shared with the U.S. government that Turkey may request assistance on the top of what U.S. has
I'll
already?
just say that throughout this process, we have been going back and forth. They have been sharing with us needs, because for us, as we provide assistance in this situation, demand signals from the ground actually lead this process. So we have been in continual touch with the Turkish government about what the needs are on the ground, and have been responding to that. That includes the airlift capability that we've been using, American military helicopters to bring this assistance into places like Adıyaman and Hatay that, especially in the early days, could not be reached by roads. It includes tents. It includes, as I noted, the mobile hospitals and the mobile kitchens as well. So really, that is an ongoing process with us and the Turkish government to do what we can to help support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going very quickly through the questions. Looks like we captured them all. Just so as during the discussion, as well as now that I wanted to add. By the way, we are not unfortunately asking the anonymous questions. Every single participant needs to identify herself or himself as they put their question in the Q&A box. But apart from that, I think we are in a good shape. So apologies if still I'm leaving out any questions. You can always reach to us also to our center if you may need more clarifications either on the discussions, or if you need any information. We will be happy to help. Just please reach out to Grady Wilson from my team if you may have certain questions. With that, I'm happy to conclude this event on the unfortunate, huge disaster took place in Turkey. And while saying that, I like to again, just say that our hearts and prayers are with the victims of the earthquake and Turkish people, as well as Syrian people who lost their lives. And thank you again for our, to our panelists who joined us today for this timely and important discussion. And hope, I'm hoping to see all the audience and my panelists in our future events, whether live in Istanbul or in Washington or over the Zoom. And thank you again for joining, and until next time.
Geçmiş olsun Türkiye.
Geçmiş olsun Türkiye.
Geçmiş olsun Türkiye.